how do you know where your hand is right now without looking at it?
Right.
Or, if you closed your eyes, stood on one foot, and someone gave you a little push, how would your brain know exactly how to fire your ankle muscles to keep you from face planting?
It's this absolutely essential sensory system that gets almost no credit. We all learn about sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, the classic five.
Yeah, the big five.
But the real constant, and I'd say indispensable sixth sense is proprioception.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to take some pretty dense research, a whole literature survey on proprioception, and just distill it into a clear, functional understanding of how your body knows itself.
Yeah, we want to get you from just knowing the word to really understanding the amazing machinery behind it.
So, what is the simple definition?
Proprioception, at its core, is the super sophisticated system that gives you a continuous and largely unconscious sense of body position, movement, and force.
And unlike vision or hearing, it's not looking outward.
No, it's completely endogenous. It's your internal GPS, and it's providing real-time mechanical feedback constantly.
Okay, so let's unpack that. This internal feedback loop. The sources say it's basically handling three main jobs all at the same time.
And that parallel processing is just key to our survival. So job number one is position encoding.
That's the basic, where's my limb in space question.
Exactly. Just knowing your arm is resting on the table without having to look down. The static picture.
Right, but what about when things are moving?
That's job two, velocity and acceleration detection. It tracks the dynamics. How fast and in what direction is that arm moving?
Like catching a baseball.
Yeah,
You need that instant speed feedback.
you absolutely do. And then job three is force and load monitoring. It's assessing exactly how hard your muscles are working.
Yep. So we can tell the difference between lifting an empty styrofoam cup and, say, Thor's hammer.
A very important distinction to make, yeah.
So to handle those three very different jobs, this can't just be one single sense.
No, not at all. It relies on really specialized hardware. The nervous system uses these mechanosensors that are distributed everywhere, in your muscles, your tendons, your joints, even your skin.
And we're going to focus on the two main classes in the muscle and tendon because they seem to do the literal and figurative heavy lifting.
They absolutely do. They have to work together to give you the full picture of both length and strength.
So where do we start?
Let's start with the primary ones for dynamic movement, the muscle spindles.
Okay.
If you could peer inside the belly of a muscle, you'd see these tiny, tiny structures running parallel to the main muscle fibers.
I always picture them like a tiny, flexible tape measure built right into the muscle.
Yeah.
But it's more complicated than just length, right?
Oh, way more complicated. They're innervated by two crucial types of nerve fibers that specialize. First, you've got the group Ia afferents.
The primary endings.
Right, you can think of them as the velocity sensors. They are exquisitely sensitive to the rate of muscle stretch, how fast the change is happening.
So if I start to slip on some ice, my muscle stretches really fast.
And those group Ia fibers just scream, velocity change, fix it now.
They're the immediate warning system.
Exactly. Then you have the group 2 afferents, the secondary ones. They respond mostly to static muscle length.
They don't care as much about speed.
Not really. They provide that sustained positional data, the constant, steady information of where your arm is just resting.
Okay, so that perfectly separates length and velocity. But what about the force, the load? How do you know if you're pulling against a heavy weight or just, tensing your muscle in empty space?
That vital third job goes to the Golgi tendon organs, the GTOs.
And they're not in the muscle belly itself.
No, they're located right where the muscle fibers weave into the tendon. They're innervated by group I afferents, and their one and only job is to measure muscle tension and force.
So if the spindle is the length gauge.
The GTO is the tension meter.
Okay, but here's the part that just seems so elegant, the calibration trick. If I contract my bicep, the muscle gets shorter.
Right.
So theoretically, that muscle spindle inside should go slack. It would unload and stop sending signals. But our movements are smooth. How does it maintain that feedback?
This is a stunning piece of engineering. It involves what are called gamma motor neurons.
So these are output nerves, not sensory nerves.
Exactly. They are motor efferents, and their whole job is to contract the tiny little fibers inside the spindle itself. When you plan a movement, your brain sends a signal to the main muscle to contract, but it also sends a coactivation signal to the spindle via those gamma motor neurons.
So the brain is pre-stretching the sensory organ at the exact same time the main muscle is shortening.
You got it. It's this clever trick that keeps the muscle spindle taut and sensitive through the entire range of motion, providing this accurate, unbroken feedback.
It's like auto-tuning a guitar mid-song so the sound never drops out.
That is a perfect analogy. Without it, every movement would feel uncertain and jerky.
So we have the hardware, the spindles, and GTOs. But for decades, there was this huge piece of the puzzle missing.
A massive one.
We knew they were mechanoreceptors, that they responded to physical force, but we didn't know the actual molecular key, the thing that turns stretch into an electrical signal.
It was a huge mystery in neuroscience until about 2015. The research really highlights the landmark discovery from the Patapushian group.
Ardem Patapushian, who won the Nobel for this.
Yes, for this and related work. They identified the piezo-2 mechanosensitive ion channel as the main transducer in our proprioceptors.
Piezo-2. Tell us about it. What does it even look like?
Its structure is just wild. It's this huge protein, a cation channel that sits in the cell membrane. It has this very distinct three-armed propeller-like shape.
A propeller.
Yeah, and when the membrane around it is physically stretched or distorted by movement, that propeller structure literally shifts, which opens a gate in the channel.
And that lets ions rush in, creating the electrical signal.
That's it. It's the literal physical switch that turns movement into neural language.
That is such a deep dive, finding the one molecule that does the job. And the evidence that piezo-2 is the one is pretty dramatic, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely compelling. In animal models, when the Patapushian group genetically deleted piezo-2 in these neurons, the results were severe.
What happened?
You get these really uncoordinated body movements, abnormal limb positioning, and it translated directly to humans.
People who have mutations in that gene.
Right. They have profound proprioceptive deficits. Imagine having to constantly look at your feet just to know where they are when you're walking.
It's like a broken protocol droid, like C-3PO trying to walk, just misjudging every step.
It's exactly that. The difference between smooth movement and, well, that.
Oh. Okay, so that's a beautiful mechanism, but the surprises aren't over.
Yeah.
Here's what I thought was the big wow fact from this research.
I think I know where you're going.
The immune system is somehow involved in tuning our sense of self.
Yes. This is a shocking, really novel neuroimmune interaction that's just emerging. Researchers are finding that resident macrophages,
Immune cells, the body's cleanup crew.
that's them, and they are physically located right next to the proprioceptor nerve terminals.
So they're just hanging out there. Why?
It seems they're highly sensitive to the local environment. They can be activated by things like metabolic stress or inflammation.
So think really intense exercise, or maybe you're in a fight or flight situation.
Exactly. And when these macrophages get activated, they release glutamate, which enhances the proprioceptor's firing rate.
And this happens in milliseconds. So the body's cleanup crew is moonlighting as a sensory amplifier.
That's a great way to put it. The hypothesis is that it's a way to optimize feedback when you need it most. When your muscles are working like crazy, the feedback gets really noisy.
And the macrophages help boost the signal through the noise.
Yeah, ensuring the system stays high fidelity during periods of really high metabolic demand. It keeps you performing when you're at your physical limits.
So once these sensors have gathered all this data position, velocity, force, it all has to go somewhere. It travels up the spinal cord.
Right, and this torrent of information basically splits into two major pathways, and they lead to two very different outcomes: conscious knowledge and unconscious motor control.
Okay, let's start with pathway A, the conscious route, the one that lets us actually feel where our body is.
That would be the dorsal column medial lemniscus pathway, or DCML.
The DCMO.
So the signals from the aya and 2 efferents go up the spinal cord on the same side they came in, cross over high up in the brainstem, go to the thalamus, and then project right to the primary somatosensory cortex, S1.
And that's where we get that internal body map, the cortical homunculus.
That's it. The DCML is the high-res feed that makes you consciously aware of, say, the exact position of your big toe.
And if that pathway is damaged?
The consequences are profound. You keep your strength, but you lose that conscious proprioception. You can move, but you need your eyes to guide every single action.
Which is why those patients have so much trouble when their eyes are closed.
Exactly. But most of our movement, especially the fast practice stuff, is all autopilot.
And that's pathway B, the unconscious navigator.
Yes, this involves the spinocerebellar tracts. They send a massive amount of proprioceptive info not to the cortex, but directly to the cerebellum.
The brain's autopilot. The rapid action coordinator.
It's the brain's internal model generator. It knows what should happen next based on a lifetime of learning.
So it's constantly running a reality check.
A constant reality check. It compares the actual feedback from the sensors with a copy of the motor command, which is basically the predicted sensory outcome.
An efference copy. So if I plan to throw a ball, my cerebellum predicts where my arm should be at every single millisecond of that throw.
Precisely, and when the actual feedback doesn't match the prediction.
When the prediction is wrong.
The cerebellum computes a sensory prediction error signal, and that signal drives this rapid, unconscious motor learning. It's why playing the piano or swinging a golf club eventually feels automatic.
But even before any of that gets to the brain, some of this information is handled at lightning speed right in the spinal cord.
That's the fast track. The most famous example is the monosynaptic stretch reflex.
The knee-jerk reflex.
That's the one. The eye efferents connect directly to the motor neurons for the same muscle. The delay is tiny, less than 10 milliseconds. It's what lets you stiffen your knee instantly if you stumble.
And the GTOs have a spinal reflex too.
They do. It's called autogenic inhibition. It's basically a safety fuse. If tension gets dangerously high, it sends a signal that instantly reduces muscle force to prevent you from tearing something.
So if proprioception was only about movement, it would be incredible. But it's also deeply tied to our sense of self.
It's fundamental. It contributes to what's called your body schema, this fluid internal map of your body's size and shape, and ultimately to your sense of ownership, your sense of self.
And we can mess with that sense of ownership with illusions. The classic one is the rubber hand illusion.
The RHI, yeah.
You hide someone's real hand, put a fake rubber hand where they can see it, and then you stroke both the real hand and the fake hand at the same time.
And people experience this startling proprioceptive drift. They start to actually feel that their real hand has moved to where the rubber hand is. The brain gets confused about which one is me.
And the research explains why this happens, and it comes back to the quality of the signal.
Yes, the key finding is that if you intentionally make the proprioceptive signal more uncertain, if you add noise, the illusion becomes much stronger.
So the brain is basically running on a Bayesian model.
Exactly. When the internal map is fuzzy, the brain defaults to trusting the more reliable visual input. It decides the site of the stroking and the feeling of the stroking must have a common cause, even if that cause is a rubber hand.
My internal map is noisy, so I'll trust my eyes. Now let's talk about how this map adapts to the tools we use.
Tool incorporation. This is so cool. Let's say you pick up, I don't know, a lightsaber.
Well, let's stick with that.
The research shows this amazing dual timescale process. There's an immediate effect, where to plan your first move, your brain perceives your arm as being slightly shorter.
Shorter? That seems counterintuitive.
It's so you can accurately plan the initial reach to control the handle. But then, with repeated use, there's a slow effect.
The ling gets longer.
Perceptually, yes. Your perceived limb length gradually lengthens until the lightsaber just feels like a natural extension of your arm. It gets consolidated into your long-term body schema.
And this whole process is driven by the brain trying to minimize that proprioceptive error signal we talked about.
That's the proprioceptive realignment model, or PRIMO in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The body is subtly lying to itself about where the hand is to make the visual information make sense.
And this plasticity, this ability to change, goes all the way down to the molecular level, even in adults.
Which is remarkable. A study in adult mice found that proprioceptor identity is not fixed for life.
What did they do?
Just 10 days of sustained running on a wheel caused a physical shift. They saw an increase in the dynamic IA subtypes, the velocity sensors, at the expense of the static IA subtypes, the length sensors.
So if you train dynamically, your nervous system literally changes the hardware to get better at sensing dynamic movement.
It restructures itself to better meet the demands you're placing on it. It's a huge deal for thinking about rehabilitation and performance.
But as powerful as this system is, it can fail. And when it does, the most obvious result is instability.
Profound postural instability, yeah. Which is why doctors do the clinical Romberg test.
They ask you to stand with your feet together and then close your eyes.
Right, and if you start to sway or fall, that's a positive test. It confirms a proprioceptive problem because with your eyes closed, you've lost the visual feedback you were using to compensate.
And we know aging is a huge factor here.
It's one of the strongest independent predictors of falls in older adults. You get muscle spindle degeneration, more neural noise, and the brain has to work harder. You see more cortical activation just to do the same job.
And specific diseases can really attack the system.
They can. In type 2 diabetes, proprioceptive loss is strongly predicted by higher HbA1c levels. Poor blood sugar control directly damages these nerves.
And what about genetic diseases?
A classic one is Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, CMT1A, where you get a duplication of a gene that messes up the myelin sheath around the nerves, leading to the severe loss of proprioception and coordination, or ataxia.
It sounds devastating. But the good news here is that because the system is so plastic, it responds really well to training.
Absolutely. The research is very encouraging. One meta-analysis found that proprioceptive training led to an average 52% improvement across different measures.
And the best training seems to combine different things.
Yeah, combined protocols are best.
Hmm.
Passive movements, active movements, with and without visual feedback. You have to train the spinal reflexes, the cerebellar predictions, and the conscious awareness all at once.
And looking ahead, what's on the horizon?
Well, with our knowledge of Piezo 2 and all these subtypes, people are already exploring proprioceptive augmentation.
Like using tech to boost the signal.
Exactly. Things like tactile stimulation arrays or microstimulation of the spinal cord to directly enhance or even replace the biological feedback that's been lost.
Wow. Okay, so let's try to synthesize all of this. What are the key takeaways?
I think there are three big ones. First, functional specialization. Proprioception isn't one thing, it's a team of parallel channels, IA, EB2, built on piezo2, each encoding specific features like position, velocity, and force.
Second, profound plasticity. The system is constantly adapting, instantly, like incorporating a lightsaber into your body map, and slowly, on a molecular level, in response to how you move and exercise.
And third, embodied identity. This sense goes way beyond just motor control. It is fundamental to our self-awareness.
Hmm.
It drives illusions like the rubber hand illusion and really defines what we feel is us in the world.
It's incredible. The difference between standing tall and feeling completely lost in space comes down to this microscopic molecular machinery constantly working away. It really is fundamental to what we perceive as us.
It is.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration into the world of amazing research.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. Given that your nervous system can seamlessly incorporate a simple tool like a hammer or even a virtual hand into your body schema, how might the proprioceptive system adapt and maybe even permanently change as more and more people spend huge amounts of time in completely immersive, full-body virtual reality environments?